Thanks for staying with us right here on Sunrise. Now, for many learners, writing matric prelim exams can be a daunting task. Now, receiving poor results can pile up the pressure and lead to a complete disaster. Luckily, learners who have performed badly can use this, of course, to their advantage before the final exams. To tell us exactly how this can be done is Dr. Gillian Mooney, Dean of Academic Development and Support at the Independent Institute of Education. Good morning to you, ma'am, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Penny.
So now, me and you were just talking off air that the prelims were done and dusted with about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Unfortunately, that means it's 3 or 4 weeks to go before October 23rd, when the matric exams kick off until the 28th of November. So obviously, the youngsters are going through a lot right now. Just state of mind, exactly what's happening then.
Well, I don't think it's an unreasonable assumption to say that everybody's fairly stressed, and I think this is a normal and natural reaction to what's going on. These final exams are an important part of your life. I think we need to realize that we can use that stress to motivate us and to kind of put that into a productive working ethic to get us through this last stage of the final push of your school career.
So now, obviously with the prelims, if the results, you know, were not as expected, very disappointing, so to say, I guess it's like, you know, kicking yourself out of that rut and starting all over, preparing yourself better for the exams. Exactly how can they go about it?
Well, I think you're exactly right, that the prelims are there to prepare you for the exam. What they do is they give you an idea of where you need to focus your work. So I'm not saying that in the areas that you did well, you do nothing, certainly not. However, it gives you an idea of the areas of work that you are not as strong on, and you can use this time to focus on those areas that you need help in while still covering everything else that you need to get through.
In terms of like the preliminary exams, I mean, where exactly are they pitched just to compare to the actual final exam?
Honestly, that probably depends on the school. I think there's some schools that make the prelims a lot more difficult, almost to give everybody a bit of a fright and to get them working for those final exams. I think that's probably more of the culture. However, it really does depend on how the school themselves set the prelims, and that's the important thing to remember, is that the school sets the prelim exams while the final matric exams are written nationally. So
it's actually the school testing its own ability and level of performance.
For sure.
Okay.
And I think schools chasing higher performances would set their matric prelim examinations at a standard that they think is higher than what the students can expect in the final exams.
Now, in terms of like prelims, you know, preparing the learner for the actual examination, I mean, has it really been proven that it does help and propel them to how they can perform?
Well, I think on the basic level, any practice writing an exam is going to help you. It prepares you for that rather intimidating exam environment. I mean, it's all very formal. A lot of students have been writing tests and exams in a classroom situation. And what the prelims will do will give them an opportunity to experience that rather formal and quite intimidating exam environment. I think that's the first advantage. I think the second advantage would be that any practice on a paper is going to help you. I think sometimes that's the difference between doing well and not doing particularly well. This is a kind of question I've seen before. I feel more confident about it. I really am more prepared for that final exam push.
Now, based on your experience, what are some of the reasons behind or common causes of poor performance when it comes to preliminary exams?
Well, I think there are numerous reasons there. I think often students don't understand the importance of it. You know,
so they don't prepare.
Well, I think that's the one thing. I think schools can also set the exam quite high, or the standard quite high, to kind of motivate students to go off and work harder. And you know, then there's life. You know, students have lives and things happen that could cause a whole range of performance. You know, I think the other thing would be the stress around it. So I think some learners are better than others at managing that stress and turning it into motivation so that they do perform well, whereas others might be quite debilitated by it.
Okay, so let's talk about stress management in this period. And obviously, let's say you've got the pressure of not doing well, or even the pressure of doing well, and thinking, will I be able to keep up come the exams? What are the things that one can do to prepare themselves for the upcoming exams?
Well, I think there are a number of things that you can do. I think the first thing is to realize that stress is a normal reaction to this situation, and to find ways to channel it productively, to say to yourself, this is important, that could cripple me, or I could say, I'm going to use this extra energy that I have and channel it into kind of hard work. I think there are also, managing that level, you can do a number of different things. I think you've got to believe in yourself. You've worked hard the whole year, typically, and this is just the culmination of that schooling career. I think the other important thing is don't try to be perfect. Set yourself realistic goals. If you are not doing particularly well in maths and science, it's not really realistic to get sort of straight A's for that. So don't set yourself up for disappointments. And I think the third thing is don't keep things bottled up inside. If you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, talk to somebody. And caregivers need to keep a careful eye on their kids during this time. I think the matric exam is stressful for kids and for parents.
For parents as well.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about the stressed parents because they could be so stressed, so panicky and overwhelmed that they could be overbearing and transfer that bad energy into the children. So how can they help themselves?
Well, I think there's the basic living circumstances. So make sure you're cooking favorite meals or nutritious meals. Set up the home environment as comfortably as possible. And I think those kind of external things would show your kid that I'm caring about it. I think you've also got to manage your emotion there and find the way to be supportive. And each kid is different. I don't think it's helpful to say, I know you'll do well. I think that could put more pressure on. It would be more helpful to say, you're concerned about doing well. Let's talk that through.
Yeah, what are the areas of concern? How can we
rather
help you?
Talk it through than say, don't worry about it, because that's also quite dismissive.
Okay. So, all right, talking it through and coming up with mechanisms of how to help out. Is it advisable to get a tutor?
Well, I think any way that you're looking at your work in a different way is helpful. So there might be a retired teacher in your community. There might be somebody who's graduated. Anybody who might have a different perspective is helpful. But again, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. If we look at the examples of different schools around the country, there was a school in Mpumalanga that virtually the entire matric class is camping out at the school from now until they finish exams. That will work in some situations, but not others. You've got to find the thing that works for you.
I was actually going to ask, like, what happens in rural settings where we cannot afford to get one, but I guess everybody can collectively put together a study group of some sort, which might already be existing.
Exactly, and teachers can also get involved. And I mean, I think also the important thing to remember is there is so much importance placed on this matric exam, and I'm not denying that it's important, but again, it's not the end of the world. There are other options. So, for example, if you don't do well, there are other options that you could explore. There are universities that would take you in from January. If you don't get into the degree, you could get into a diploma or a higher certificate. So I think that feeling like this is the make or break is often what causes so much stress, without realizing that there's always an alternative. There's always some way that you can figure it out. Not that I'm saying sit back and do nothing.
Okay, we get it.